All right, well, welcome back to the Seaway Sports Lounge with Ryan and Ty. Now we're going to be chatting about the NHL, probably our number one league that we follow most. We have our other leagues we like, but the NHL for us is our number one.
It's the
So
go-to.
it's our standard, so our gold standard that we follow. Do you see? Obviously, things are going to be happening very soon, Typhoon, but do you see anything on the wire right now that's worth chatting about at the moment?
Currently, Blue Jackets made a small trade acquiring forward for a fourth-round pick, Mathieu Olivier. I think he's in AHLer at the moment.
Okay, so he's a prospect or something, or
A 25-year-old.
right, NHL ready help guy, right?
Yeah,
Bottom.
he's from the. He actually played. They re-signed him.
Oh, he's part of their system. Okay.
Let's see. Oh, the Blue Jackets acquired Mathieu Olivier for the fourth-round pick. That's what it was.
Okay, so the reverse. Okay, that's fine. That's
Yes.
good.
Olivier played 3 games with the Preds this season in the first round.
Oh, okay, cool. Nice. Anything else? Any other major?
Uh,
And we'll get into
one.
rumors later, but I just want to know if there's any
Red
like.
Wings have a coach.
Oh, and who is this coach? Who is it?
They have hired the former assistant to John Cooper, Eric Lalonde. This one was a highly touted coach and was expected to be a coach somewhere. And obviously, Steve Yzerman knows him, so it makes sense.
There's a probably he hired him at the beginning when he used to be the GM of Tampa.
100%.
Right? Yeah, so it's probably his guy, and he figured, well, I need a new one because Blashill was relieved, so he figured, okay, well, let's bring this guy in. So that's good. Hey, I like when I hear that assistants move up like that. That's the way it should be.
It's 100%. It shouldn't be always new coaches. I think assistants should get more chances, and I see a lot of GMs are going outside the box and doing that now.
Well, the thing is,
When you see Luke Richardson just signed his 4-year deal today.
Oh, so he did. So he's now the new head coach of the Blackhawks.
It's official. He's got his 4-year deal.
I've always been a fan of Luke Richardson when he was a Maple Leaf. Great defenseman. Shame, of course, in the era back then when he played, they didn't really either know what they had or they chose to move away from him, but I didn't understand why. But anyway, they did. But yeah, I always had full respect for the guy because he was just that good, nice coach, like a nice player, and it was a good personality, like Lady Bing kind of guy. And anyway, he ended up getting into coaching, and I heard that. I put a smile on my face. So, I mean, good for him. He's got his work cut out for him, but he doesn't have any pressure, I don't think. I think you agree with that.
None, not whatsoever.
Not for a little while. Not for a little while.
You know what? They're a rebuilding team, and it's a 4-year deal. That means they're expecting 3 years of gain. And he's one of the best player coaches you can have.
Yeah.
Anytime it really hurts as a Habs fan that he will not be behind the bench. I don't know how many times I saw that man. Literally, when a guy came off the ice after a bad play, he's right over their shoulder. He's hitting their shoulders, giving a slap on the chest, telling them it's fine, whatever. That, to me, is the best player coach you can have.
And you know what? The NHL is moving towards a player coach system because the way the NHL players are now, they're a little more sensitive and they rather... I mean, as far as I know, there's a lot of hard, tough guys out there. I'm not going to paint everybody with the same way, but I just know that a lot of the higher... more skilled guys, a number of them, at least what I see, require a different kind of coaching than, say, the Ty Domies and the Doug Gilmores of our era when we were kids.
I couldn't agree anymore. The kids, I find it's the older players that are like, we need a tough coach, but the younger guys, they can't tolerate that.
Oh, they don't accept it either, right? Yeah, they don't tolerate it or accept the idea that why do I have to get yelled at all the time whenever I already know how to play this game? I'm just adapting my game to your system. But other than that, I know how to play hockey. Honestly, in my opinion, I believe one of the problems with Matthews was with Babcock was that exact reason. Babcock had a certain way he wanted it played, and Matthews had a certain way he thought hockey was meant to be played based on what Crawford taught him whenever he was over in Switzerland. Matthews was ahead of his time, and look what he did this year. Babcock, I don't know... his choices were, we're not going to go into that because that's in the past. It's a long time ago now. But in a nutshell, just to come back to this is the issue, is that older coaches, younger players, they don't seem to mesh anymore. I think it's going to be this older, younger coach, newer style with the younger players, teams kind of thing.
I'm finding you're seeing a lot more of the tougher coaches as assistants these days, or associates.
Dean, the one that's our coach in Toronto, he's always been told there, Coach Dean, I can never pronounce his last name. I don't want to say it because I don't want to ruin it. But anyway, great coach, plays with Carolina last year. Anyway, he is a tough guy. Like he's a tough personality with what I've read, but he's excellent with the players, and that's why they have full respect for the guy. And that's why they brought him in, and Carberry as well, because he was from the Hershey Bears. He was an excellent assistant, so he's helping Keefe out whenever he needs to as well. And he was interviewed by Boston.
Yes, that's true. Actually, speaking of Boston, it sounds TSN is reporting 54 minutes ago Jim Montgomery is likely to become the next Bruins head coach. I have another huge news in the NHL.
So what's that?
Jill Natsky joins Cap's first woman to become NHL video coach. So she's the Emily Angel Natsky, going to be the first full-time female NHL coach.
Well, what's your feeling on all that? And I mean, it's a very touchy subject with a lot of people, and I'll give you my thought, but what do you think?
Here, let me give it to you at a point of view this way. The biggest argument in the Montreal Canadiens organization is French speaking.
Right.
I have always said this. I don't care if the coach only speaks Swahili. If he's the best person available, that's all that matters. Now, if she's completely qualified to do this position, I am perfectly fine with that. I have no issues with that. None whatsoever.
Right. Okay. Well, that's how my feelings are. It's a new age. It's the new era. It's about time women are now into the sports, and especially into like pro hockey and the pro leagues in general. I'm pleased to see that there's progressive teams that want to do these things now. And I think we've mentioned this at the in passing at the job, is that women can look at tape the same as men can and see the same thing. It's not like it's a magical or completely different thing. It's the same thing. It's all same training, same everything. So I love the fact they're bringing them in. I love the fact that they want females and women to run these things. I mean, it's great. And we will see a female GM sooner than later, I believe, in the NHL. And I think the NHL will be the league that will do it.
Well, I can tell you right now, we're already headed in that direction when you have 2 female assistant general managers in Vancouver. You have Emily Castonguay and you have Cami Granato.
Bingo. Okay, so right there. And those ladies know hockey. They played the sport. They know. Yes. They understand the sport. They understand the players, and now they're AGMs. So, I mean, right there.
And Chicago Blackhawks also promoted Megan Hunter to assistant general manager.
So, I mean, it's on its way. I mean, within the next under 3 years, I could see that happening. Maybe 5 at the maximum.
Well, didn't Toronto last year hired Haley Wickenheiser for player development?
Yes, that's right. Yes, they did. They hired yes, and she's been great. So,
and the Habs just hired Marie-Philippe Poulin for the same thing.
Yeah. So the trends are there. So absolutely.
And I'm sorry, when it comes to teaching skills and development skills, you do not have to be a man teaching a man. There is no contact in those development skills. It is puck control, it is skating, it is all that stuff.
It's the same fundamentals.
Yes. If she wants you to skate straight and then curve, there's no different from a guy asking you to do the same thing.
Agreed. Absolutely. So we're absolutely on the same page.
So when it comes to teaching the sport, you're getting the exact same coaching training than guy standing next to you. And
exactly.
It all depends on how far you want to take it and what level of license you want.
Oh, and that's it. I mean, it's a matter of what the organization feels, how far they want to move forward. And you know what? The Canadian teams are going to be pretty progressive, or the northern states. I'm sure all the NHL is going to be progressive there with this. They will be, and you can already see it. So I'm happy to see that. But it'll be interesting to see how the Habs do, which is now what we're going to talk about next. So the Habs will be a segment on their own one and some very close podcast. The next one, maybe. We're going to go over our teams. But this right now, I just want your general opinion. Now, your team is about to go through something that my team went through about 5 years ago. Is still in the process of ironing that out with Toronto, but in Montreal's case, we'll work on Montreal tonight. In your honest opinion, as Montreal's probably one of the biggest fans I've ever met, I know many of them that are, what do you feel is your direction for your team? Like, how do you think the Montreal Canadiens are going to handle the draft? What are they going to do? And are they going to make big trades? Are they going to go fast? Are they going to do a quick rebuild like Burke style? Or are they going to do a long slog, slow style, over time, build and trade as they go? Like, what do you think?
You and I have been talking about this for a while.
Yes.
I've been kind of mixed feelings on a lot of things.
Right.
I went over a few things today and yesterday talking to another Habs friend of mine. We talked about the direction of the team and everything, and I looked at the draft as well. The biggest thing with the Habs is, from what I hear, Hughes wants a quicker turnaround, but because We already have a ton of very, very, very good prospects in the Montreal Canadiens organization. So he just wants to add more pieces to that, and he said they want the team to be competitive within 2 years. So I'm
Years.
thinking this year and next year are going to be bad, and then they're going to try and do the 180.
Okay, 2
Now,
years.
that's what Hughes said. Those were Hughes' words.
Right. Now that's your new general manager. Montreal hired him over the last couple months, and he was again one of those out of the box hirings that you don't normally see. And I mean, Jeff Gorton, we both know it was the architect of the New York Rangers. And I mean, we saw what the Rangers did this year in the playoffs and this season. They're a wonderful young little team that's growing up and going to develop.
The architect of the Bruins Stanley Cup team, by the way.
Yes, that's right. You mentioned that before in conversation. So right there, the man has plenty of credentials and lots of runway on his resume to show that this guy knows how he's doing. And even though he's an American in a Canadian city, which my team I follow, did that years ago with Brian Burke, this guy, Jeff Gorton, he has the pulse of this team, and I think he's going to do a great job in Montreal, as long as Jeff Molson gives him the reins, which I think he has, because Molson knows if Montreal is successful, he will make hand over fist and money. He'll still make money, but he'll make a lot more money because you need your playoff runs and all that stuff. So, saying all this, like, what is your opinion on the draft? Who do you think Montreal will choose? And if you were the GM, who would you think? Who would you choose? And
I am
why?
100% leaning towards the Habs picking Shane Wright or Logan Cooley first. They need a centerman. Everybody knows that. Now, Pierre LeBrun was saying today, I just read in a tweet, that now that they've made there's a debate going on that now that the rankings have come out from McKenzie, which are the big rankings for the NHL when it comes down to the draft. Okay. It's always McKenzie. Now that they have come out and said Slavkovsky's number one, there's a lot of talk that because New Jersey is so eager to get Slavkovsky, because in all honesty, them getting a centerman makes absolutely zero sense. You have Hughes and you have Hischier. Where's Cooley or Wright going to fit?
Right, yeah.
So they're definitely in the need of a winger. Now, with that winger that they want being number one, can Montreal persuade them to swap picks and maybe steal somebody?
Right. Well, that's, again, the sky's the limit, right? Like, I mean, you and I both know when it comes to the draft, anything can happen. I mean, I've witnessed teams make trades that make your head spin at the draft. And I mean, that's what's so fun about the draft, which, by the way, we intend to do a live draft show when that day or a follow-up show, one or the other.
Now remember, that draft is in Montreal. I'm expecting a lot of interesting things to happen. I really am.
Well,
don't see us walking away with just picking the first and the 26th pick. I really don't.
Well, the other thing too is you have how many draft picks right now?
I have 14 in this draft.
14. So I mean, that's 14 players, but that's also 14 options for trade, and
7 in the first 4 rounds.
7 in the first 4 rounds. So I mean, that's a lot of players. So I mean, again, that's what the Maple Leafs did in their draft. That's what we did 5 years ago. We tore down Burke's team completely. Like Lou Lamoriello tore the team down, right down to the wood. The team, you and I both know the team was done. So
it wasn't even that it was done. It was just drowning. They had nothing to build on. They just had pieces, but no building blocks.
Yeah, probably one of the worst assembled teams I've ever saw in the 30 years I've followed this team.
Honestly, the way it was built was very similar to, I like this player, I like this player, I like this player, let's make a team.
Yeah, it was. There's no cohesion to the team, and you could see it because they would crash and burn after every January. A
little bit of chemistry. There was none.
They would do really good. They would do great, and then all of a sudden they'd burn out in January, and then they would crash.
As soon as playoff hockey started, they couldn't keep up.
Even before that, I'd say 2 months prior, they would start to fail and fade fast.
Or burnt out. They were burnt out.
Oh yeah, they weren't well built. But yeah, so in Montreal, it's coming back to Montreal though. So you think either Cooley or Wright. Now, between the two men, who do you think you would rather? Obviously, Wright is the center, and you and I both know centermen, you need to draft them because no one trades them. It's very rare. Do you think Shane Wright, let's say they chose Shane Wright, do you think he would be the solution? Because you already have Suzuki and you already have Caulfield. Now, Caulfield's a winger, I believe, yes?
Yes.
Okay, so this Wright would become your second West line center, or first, depending on which one.
Me personally, I don't know anything about Logan Cooley. There's no way for me really to watch NCAA hockey. Right. I'm going to be honest right there.
Okay, that's fair.
I have watched Shane Wright play, and everyone was complaining, oh, well, his scoring toppled off and he did this and he did that. He was on a terrible team this year, a terrible team. And he scored 94 points when he thought defense first.
So he's a Selke trophy winner in the making.
He, from what I've seen, is a comparable to Suzuki, and even in a sense, a comparable to Bergeron, the way he plays. He thinks team first before he plays.
Well, that's a good thing. I mean, Bergeron, we all know how much Bergeron's probably one of the best in the business. He is. The guy's got, what, 5 of them? Got 5 Selkies. So
now, here's the twist. Logan Cooley, he's a bit smaller. He's a couple inches, he's 5'10". And Hughes coached this kid with his son. He was 12 years old.
Right.
Knows this kid in and out. Does it come down to familiarity or player you've heard good things about and you've seen tapes on?
Well, okay. I can see that too. I'll agree with you on that. Familiarity is a very big thing in the NHL. A lot of teams tend to go to things they know well, like the VC family, for instance. Whenever Jim VC was with the Toronto Maple Leafs, everybody, and it was a Leafs fan, thought it was a sure bet that VC was going to be a Maple Leaf right away, and then he ended up signing with the Rangers. And then eventually he did become a Maple Leaf, and as we all saw...
and then you guys drafted Nolan VC, but he never worked out.
Yeah, he didn't work out, and actually the other VC didn't, Jimmy VC himself. Sorry, Jimmy VC's the player, the dad who worked for us. Anyway, Jimmy VC just didn't work out. He just wasn't good enough, and he was given the opportunity to do anything, and he didn't do anything.
Wait, Jim VC was your scout. Jimmy VC was a son.
Okay, so it's Jim Jr. Okay, so I was right. Okay, so it's 2 Jims. Okay,
it's Jim and Jimmy.
Okay, James and James. Okay. Okay, fair enough. It's okay. Yeah. So anyway, I think Montreal fans, they're going to go through like what Toronto fans did. The only thing I tell Montreal fans, and I'm going to tell you this and everybody else who's watching, please be patient. Good things happen when they are patient. Yes, my team has not cracked the first round in 6 years straight. I understand that. I've been ridiculed about it and all kinds of stuff over the last 6 years, but they're getting closer with everything, and they're a lot like, they remind me so much of the Washington Capitals. It's not even, and they will break through one day, but soon. But the thing is, in Montreal's case, because your team's in such tatters right now, and they are rebuilding, and if you can get rid of Price's money somehow, if he has no desire to play for Montreal or play at all, then, or LTIR it forever, well, then you're talking. But they got to do some other changes like Petrie, him, and about another number of players. I preach patience because it will pay off.
I just hate the fact that really Carey Price's contract dictates what the Habs can do. It's $10.5 million.
Yeah, I know.
It really dictates the future.
Yeah, I know. It's a tough sell to fans, me included. I when I went through it with my team and the rebuild, I thought it was the right thing to do. Toronto was finished. There was nothing left in the tank, just like the Blue Jays were. We could talk about that next episode. But how they did that and where they've gone. But Montreal will get there. But the thing is, the fans have to accept. I know that Bergevin promised, he was the guy. And I honestly thought Bergevin was your guy. I thought he was going to be the next greatest GM since Sam Pollock. And I could say that on the air because I really thought he came from a Dale Talon run Chicago Blackhawks team.
And you know as well as I do, I believed in him too.
Yes, everybody, most Hab fans I do believed in this guy.
A lot of it was a very mixed crowd, I'll be honest.
Mixed? Okay, you know your fan base better than I do. So
a lot of people always wondered what he was doing because he made a lot of weird moves, I guess you could say.
Okay.
Like adding depth defensemen when we're like, you need a forward.
Interesting. That's what I'm saying. So, Montreal has the work cut out for them. And Bergevin did damage the team quite badly as far as I'm concerned. He set you back a few years at least with the trades with Sergachev, Subban, regardless of the outcome. Like those things. Like, the list goes on and on. Drouin's
the one that hurts. That's the one that led to misery that the Habs have been in. Like it's a roller coaster the last 4 years because it's not that they're good when they make the playoffs, it's that they had a good run that year.
Well, like in Drouin's case, I can't figure him out. I don't think anybody can, but the thing is, it's like it's almost like it's in his head that he can't do whatever he's supposed to, or he doesn't have a centerman that can drive him properly. He's a Marner in waiting. The guy could.
I don't know what he
get 100
needs,
points. Well, that's it. They haven't figured out what he needs.
They've played him with everything, literally everything.
Yeah,
And
and
it's
I
not
don't know.
fixing anything.
Well, I don't know what to do with it. Like, I mean, I wouldn't know what to do with this kind of guy because he's clearly an egomaniac. First of all, that's one thing, in my opinion. Anyway, he's an
He's
egomaniac.
always very soft spoken, but he might be.
Oh,
It
I
might
think
just be
so.
a. It might be a smoke screen for the crowd, for the camera. I don't know.
Well, he certainly, I see him when I do watch him play because I mean, I keep an eye on him because I've always kept an eye on him in draft for pools because
Yes.
he's that player that can explode for 90 points one year. You know what I mean?
He was a third overall pick for a reason,
Yes,
but
exactly.
I don't think he was ready for it.
Well, there's other players in the NHL that had that issue with, like in my team's case, it was Luke Shen. Luke Shen was a touted top 3 said defenseman, and I hate to say it, but Ron Wilson ruined him. He did because he was his coach whenever he had him, and then he ended up becoming essentially a bottom 6 defenseman when he was like top 5, I believe, of his draft year. Because the Leafs were bad that year that they drafted him. And they were going on and on about this guy. And
I don't think Shen should have been on the team so early.
no, and they were so thin on depth. That was one of the problems. But yes, that's the thing. So you feel that Shane Wright will be, or Cooley will go, is your number one guy. You think a lot of things are going to happen in Montreal because it's in Montreal, and you think that that's what's going to happen. So honestly, that's all good stuff. And again, we're going to do a show on both our teams. Like as more news comes out or we get closer to free agency, the draft itself, which is coming up in July, early July. We will talk more about
it. Yeah, there was a couple other things too I wanted to mention about the Habs. It's been a few days, but we haven't mentioned it. Some people might know the Yevgeny Dadonov trade.
Yeah, Montreal made a big move a few days ago, picking up Dadonov by removing Shea Weber's contract to the Vegas Golden Knights, which, in my opinion, is a win-win for both teams. I mean, you get what you want, which is removing a contract you don't need, and they get cap relief, which is what they're in desperate need of. It's not a bad thing. It's not a bad trade. In fact, I've gone on the record to say I was hoping Dubas would have done the same kind of deal and flip a player to Montreal on a 1-year deal to pick up his contract to give the Maple Leafs some cap relief. But that didn't happen. But it clearly is allowed to happen. That's the thing I was getting at, is that it's allowed. They're okay with it. Like we talked about how it's not okay, but clearly it is okay. So, and it's not the only one that's been done. There's been, Toronto had Nathan Horton. They did the same thing. Nathan Horton's contract allowed Toronto to sign Marner to his big deal. As far as I'm concerned, that's what the numbers showed. It's interesting. But what else? Anything else?
There's a little bit more. Apparently, Kent Hughes has contacted all top 10 teams about their pick.
Really?
He really wants that. I'm personally thinking he's looking for another top 10 pick because he wants to draft. There's a lot of talk that he's very interested in Finnish power forward winger Lekari Maki.
Okay. Well, here's the deal with that. They could dangle a guy like Petrie in front of a team, and they could probably get that first round. And maybe one other thing. They'll have to dangle Petrie and probably a good prospect on your system. Do that.
Well, there is talk that it's already everyone. I'm pretty sure it's out there, pretty known. Jeff Petrie will be moved. Absolutely, will be moved.
Yeah.
And
they need his money.
Dallas is interested because they're losing Klingberg.
Yeah, well, Dallas, I could see him going to because it's an American city, and
Philly's interested because they're Philly.
Right.
Detroit is obviously interested, but
because they're rebuilding.
Detroit is rebuilding and when they said, yeah, we'll take him, but they want Candy.
Yeah, Dallas is probably where I think he's going to land. I think Petrie will land in Dallas.
And I think we're going to get a younger prospect or maybe NHL ready forward from them.
Yes, I do believe so. You're going to get a good deal out of it. But again, it's the money they want back. That's the thing. Yes. They want the money back to help either sign younger players or just have more cap room to work with.
And there's a lot of talk they're trying to move Mike Hoffman right now.
Yes, I heard saying Ottawa was looking at Mike Hoffman again.
Yep. Ottawa, Arizona, and a couple other teams are interested.
Again, the teams that don't want to pay
to
get to the floor. What else is new?
Exactly. Shin Dvorak is up in the air. I don't know what the plan is with him. I guess it would depend on if we draft a center that's NHL ready, right?
To me, Dvorak is you keep a guy like that so that he can help build the young guys around him, so he has at least some veteran help.
I know, and I don't see them getting rid of him yet. If the plan is to move him, he didn't really get he didn't get a fair look under St. Louis, and he was a point per game under St. Louis.
Right. Interesting. Yes, I mean that's what I'm saying. Like, I mean, guys like Dvorak, you keep a Dvorak. You don't give up. You got to keep some veteran. Like
Oh
Gallagher,
yeah,
I don't think's going anywhere. He's staying put.
if they're gonna try and move him, I think, but it's not an easy sell.
Well, he's too high of
It
a
is not.
salary, and he's so injured. His hands are basically like this. Like they're all like
Um,
claws.
Anybody who knows me in the past 6 years, I have said this every year until this contract kicked in. We're going to sign a broken man for what he's done, not what he can do.
Oh, and you can see that because the poor guy,
And
he's broken his hand. I don't know how many times. He's gonna have so much
they,
arthritis in there. Oh
he's
my
got
god.
two, but he's shattered both his hands. He's got
So
metal in both hands.
So what's that tell you? Like, and the other fellow there that you chat about quite often there, Anderson.
Josh Anderson.
Yeah,
Josh
so
Anderson is at the point of his career. He's 28 years old and has 5 years left. He was at 5.5. Now that is a great price for what that man brings to an ice hockey team. So I love the guy. I love what he brings.
right.
You are never going to get anything better than what he's going to get you right now.
No, he's at the pinnacle of his career currently. And the thing
So,
is, yeah, they need to get that money
so
back.
I would move him.
Yeah, because you know what? He would give a team what they need, and he's all toughness, and he's a great guy in the corners. He'll get the puck out for you, and that's his style. And there's teams out there, including my own, that I watch that could use a guy like Josh Anderson. Now, unfortunately, we can't afford a guy like him because the Maple Leafs just don't have the money for that kind of contract on top of what they need to sign.
Mhm.
But the thing is, unless they move a core piece, which again we'll talk another day about, I think Montreal is going to move a lot of players this year. I don't think your team is going to look
Well,
anything like it did 2 years ago.
well, let me put it to you this way. I found this quite the puzzle on my face. You know very well that I told you Caden Primo had a great playoff in the AHL.
Yes.
He put up Carey Price AHL numbers that Carey Price had the first year he won the MVP and the playoffs was a tournament champion.
Right.
They are looking. I just heard a rumor from the Vancouver guys. Rick Dhaliwal, is it?
I don't know. Well, we'll go with that.
I think it's Rick Dhaliwal. He was saying that the Habs are interested in young goaltender Michael DiPietro.
Okay.
He's the exact same goalie as Primo. So it's kind of puzzling. Does that mean they've given up on Primo and they're moving him out, or is Primo getting a promotion?
Well, is Primo going to become
And
the backup of Price, right?
yeah, and does that mean Allen is out? Are they re-signing Montembeault? There are so many questions.
Yeah, and this is what happens in a rebuild team because all you're going to be sitting there as a fan is you're going to be like looking at the wall and like who's going out, who's coming in, who is it? And that's what we went through with our team. It was the same thing. You're like, we gutted so many players. They were moving 3, 4, 5 guys at a time at the deadline. They were moving guys at the draft. And I mean, the team looked nothing like it did 2 years later. And your team will be the same. It'll be identical. You'll be like, who is this guy? Like, who's this guy? Like,
well, let me put it to you this way: this team, we currently have 1.9 million in cap space,
right.
and Michael Pezzetta needs a contract. Rem Pitlick needs a contract.
Someone's moving.
Alex Romanov needs a contract.
You guys again have your work cut out for you, and that's completely fine. That's what a rebuild is. It's going to be high turnover. I think we're at the point now where we'll take a little break and then we'll come back and then we can talk a little more about the draft and then wrap it up, and then that probably will be the end of that episode. So let's take a
give it a list of the top 10 maybe of the drafts. The McKenzie ranking.
Okay, sounds good. We could do that after the break, and then we'll come back, and then we'll see what that's about, and then talk it over, and then after that, we can either have one more little break, and then wrap it all up. So that will come back. All right, well, we're back. So in this segment, and probably our final segment tonight, will be the NHL draft itself. Now, we've spoken earlier in the previous segment about what Montreal will do in theirs, a little bit about other teams, but so Typhoon has the list. We're going to talk about the top 10 choices that might and probably will happen, depending on which order they'll fall. I don't know. Things can change. We all know.
It all depends on needs.
Needs, wants, whatever people want. People change their minds. I mean, we all know how it goes. Anybody who's watched a draft in any sport, it's always the same.
Everyone knows in a draft when one pinball falls blows everyone's mind, it changes the whole draft board.
As they say, who goes off board, right? That's the usual saying you hear on these things when you watch the televisation.
Last time that happened was when Puljujärvi was picked. That changed the entire first round.
Yeah, people were like scrambling, trying to figure what to do.
Because they all thought Edmonton was taking the defenseman.
as we know, they would never do that. So
What's a defenseman?
what's not like, Chiarelli when he was running it, like what's defense? We don't do that.
What was his team at the time?
Yeah, no defense. All offense. All small forward offense. It's great. And McDavid. So I mean, and Leon. So anywho, so with that, let's see what the draft list. So go ahead and read them off, and then let's see
Right.
what you have a little more knowledge of the draft per se than I do. So I haven't really dove into it too much lately. I've heard the names, but not really how they are. But go ahead. Who do we got?
Top three are the big three that everyone knows: Uri Slavkovsky, Shane Wright, Logan Cooley.
Right.
Number 4 is a defenseman from Slovakia named Simon Nemec. He's actually been nicknamed the Euro Makar because of the way he plays.
Okay.
And he's been playing in the Slovakian men's league since he was 16.
Okay, so he's been playing with guys already. So he's going to develop beaucoup fast. Yeah, interesting.
Those 4 were all predicted to be top 4, just not knowing what positions. So, Cutter Gauthier, I believe he's number 5 now. David Juracek is where he was originally expected. He's a defenseman from Czechia, I guess they're called now. I thought it was Czech Republic. Joachim Kemmel last year was actually expected to be a top 3 pick and very quickly fell to the 7th spot.
Right. Why is that?
I guess it had to do with his play, as far as I know. It kind of really slumped.
That happens.
Mhm.
Hey, Morgan Riley was slated to be first overall, and he had I think it was either an illness or an injury that caused him to drop to 5. So I'm pretty sure it was
4
or 4.
and
Sorry,
Edmonton took their forward.
yes. Yeah, I remember that because I remember Brian Burke was like saying this guy's going first overall, and anyway ended up falling on his lap and he picked him up. It's very interesting how players fall. Go ahead.
Ekapov went first that year.
Oh.
Next is Jonathan Lekkerimäki. He's a very similar player to, I've heard, Uri Slavkovsky.
Right. Anybody in the NHL who would be comparable to him in the NHL? Is there anybody's name that goes by? Just so that the audience would understand maybe who he could say he's like. If there is one. Sometimes they don't.
Sometimes they have a comparison, but
like certain guys were like, oh, this is the next Joe Sakic. Oh, this guy's the next Paul Coffey.
I don't see it right here. I could look into it for you.
Yeah, we could not at the moment, not today. I mean, it was just curious to see. But
we still have a draft coming up in a week that we can talk about that when it comes up.
We'll go into detail with that. Yes.
He's been playing in Sweden the past couple of years. He's 5'11". Yeah, he's a decent size. I like this kid from what I hear. He's a very good power forward and he has an amazing shot. He was going to be he was in around the 14th rank. He moved into the top 10.
Okay. Well, that's a good ranking. I mean, the guy's moving up in the list, so that's huge. I mean, that's always a positive sign for whoever's going to draft him. If he goes in the top 10, which I believe he will, which most of the time it happens. Sometimes draft picks fall way deep. I remember a draft a few years ago that happened. The guy was slated to go like top 6, and he fell like to 29th or something like that. I forget who that was.
Joe Veleno.
Yes. Joe Veleno for Detroit. Yes. Because Toronto almost got Joe Veleno.
From what I understand, it was his attitude.
Yes, because Toronto was looking at Veleno because we were looking for another centerman at the time. So
obviously he has a bit of an attitude issue, so that's why he fell.
Yeah. Oh, he fell. Oh boy, and there was a big stink on the coverage.
There was also a defenseman last year who was supposed to be a first rounder, and he fell to the 3rd round to Calgary's lap.
3rd round. What happened?
It was a huge collapse. And this was supposed to be like I think it was last year or the year before. I can't remember exactly. But he was slated to be like 25th.
Wow. That's impressive.
The huge collapse.
Wow. No kidding. Okay. That happens, though.
So,
it happens in any league. But, I mean, I find the NHL, it happens more often than the other one.
100%.
Yeah. So who's next?
Next is the centerman Matthew Savoie.
Okay.
He is he's a small forward, small centerman, 5'9", 179 pounds.
Right. Okay. Yeah, it's pretty small. He's
probably a speedy guy, but he did put up in the Western Hockey League, which is not easy. He put up 90 points last year.
Nothing to slouch.
65 games.
That's nothing to slouch over. That's still really good stats. So he does have the ability to put in points. Maybe he's the next Tyler Johnson for all we know.
Tyler Johnson, maybe Johnny Gaudreau.
Maybe Johnny Hockey. Yeah, he's not very big. Gilmore wasn't big in his era, and look what he did.
Still waiting to see what full capabilities Cole Caulfield can do.
Yes, Cole Caulfield. I mean, the list goes on, right? Just depends on who chooses him and if they want him or not. Who else?
And number 10 is Danishman, Marco Kaspar.
Marco Kaspar. What's his position? What's he play?
He's also a centerman. This top 10 is very center filled. There are
come in
4 centermen
waves,
in the
eh?
first. Oh, actually, there's 5 centermen in the top 10.
Seems that centermen come in waves, eh? Like it comes in like one year it'll be like centers to death, and then it'll be defensemen. Then it'll be a mixed bag of everybody. How many Canadians?
Never get goalies really.
No, never. They're always late first round, early second round. Usually they're late. Carey Price was one of the rare ones.
Supposed to be late though. He was projected to be 25th.
Right, and he
went off the board to take him.
Well, they took him so that my team didn't get him. That was the rule of thumb. That was what the thought process was. Because Toronto and Montreal that year were very close in the draft, and Toronto was in need because Belfour retired, so they didn't have a state-of-the-art goalie, and they ended up going with Raycroft later on. We all know how it went that way. So
and they drafted Rask.
They had Rask. Well, that was the replacement. They ended up going with Rask instead because they lost out on Price.
I think instead of just waiting for Rask, they rushed things along to go get Raycroft.
Well, as you told me, like we saw, Raycroft won Calder, or he won. Yeah, he won
the year before. He was the Calder Trophy.
Yeah. So on paper,
his first year in Toronto wasn't atrocious. It
No.
looked okay.
Yeah, he did the job. They almost got in the playoffs. They're 1 point out in that year, if I remember correctly. It was the year they were going up against the Islanders, and I remember that day because the Islanders won by 1 point.
You guys beat us in the final game on a weird floating goal to eliminate us, and you got to sit in the playoffs until the Islanders game was over, where Wade Dublowitz was the hero in the shootout to eliminate you guys.
Yeah, I remember because Ted Nolan was coaching the Islanders at the time.
I will never forget that because that was the year
09.
Huet went down and Halak got his first taste of the NHL and went 10-4. And then it came down to the final game, and Huet came back and he played, and they lost 6-5, literally on a goal that floated over everybody and just dropped in the net. I was like, really? And
Paul Maurice was our coach, I think, that year.
I personally said straight off the hop that like before the game started, I think they should have just started Halak, because why not? He brought you to this position. Let him finish it.
It was a weird pick for them. I remember pundits were scratching their heads. They're like, they have a goalie. They have a goalie of the future. Why did they go after this goalie? And anyway, we know the reason why. But
and then they thought Justin Pogge.
Justin Pogge and that was the name he was given, the goalie of the future. That was his name. That was his nickname. I remember.
It was very out there that he's the man. He's the one.
He was the guy, the future Joseph, or the future in Belfort. So
it really tried to sell him as that, and it was one of those guys that didn't pan out.
Nope, he didn't. None of them did. Then, as we all know, Toronto became basically a graveyard for goaltending for a decade. So
it took a long time to find
Anderson. So that was after him. But as for the draft, coming back to the draft to wrap it all up, it's going to be a pretty exciting draft. There's not a lot of generational names. Like there's no Matthews, McKinnon, Marner.
There is
McDavid.
This draft will fill your team with depth and top 6 forwards, but they're not going to give you a guy who's going to have a franchise tag.
No. And this is one of those drafts. It's kind of like an in-between draft. That's kind of, it's going to be all good players, but it won't take long before there's a problem or a project or something that's going to be in the 15th choice, 10th choice.
From what I've read, honestly, next year's draft, they're saying has the top 5 are all franchise players.
So like another 05 again, like 03. Sorry, 03 was the pinnacle year.
They're saying, like, I know of Bedard, Michkov, and Fantilli, but they said the top 5. I don't know the other 2. I'd like to look into it.
It'd be neat to find out if it's every 20 years, because in 03, in 2023, which is that year, if it's supposed to be slated as the next draft to have, so maybe it's actually every 20 years that these phenoms show up.
20 years is a generation.
Yeah, which is, yes.
I'd like to look at the 93 draft and see.
Yeah, we should do that as a thing. Maybe we could do that in the next one.
Sorry, the 83 draft.
83 draft, yes, not the 93.
Actually, is the 83 draft the Wickenheiser draft?
03, 93, 83. Very interesting. But yes, the draft is very exciting. It's going to be a good time for Montreal fans that are trying to see what Montreal is going to do. I know that your fan base is going to be sitting on the edge of its seat the whole time because there are going to be either some trades or whatever. My team, we have our first round draft pick. I could see the Maple Leafs making a move. Again, I'll discuss that in the next one. We'll focus on the Maple Leafs next time. Overall, it'll be an interesting time. So I think we'll take a break, and unless you have something else you'd like to add.
I was just gonna say, I looked at 93 right away. Just for top 5, Ian Lawton, Sylvain Turgeon, Pat LaFontaine, Steve Yzerman, Tom Barrasso. I'm looking at this list, like I'm looking at just the top of the first round, which was only up to 21 back then. Only 2 players played less than 300 games.
There you go. What's that tell you?
That tells me it was a very good draft.
It was very deep.
I'm going down to the final rounds, and there's still guys playing 1,000 games.
Oh yeah, you get those generational drafts, right?
Every 20 years is a generation.
Yep. So with that, what we'll do is we'll go with a quick break. Now we're back. We're back with the final segment, basically our wrap up for our show. Typhoon, what do you think? I think this is going to be pretty fun. I think it's going to be a lot of fun this show.
I'm enjoying it already.
Yes.
To be honest with you.
Yes. I know that we haven't covered everything, of course. I know there's so much to talk about, especially right now in sports. It's a very condensed, a lot of news happening. We didn't even touch baseball, really no NFL news at all, PGA, soccer. Those are all subjects we could talk over time.
We didn't even get a chance to mention the PGA Tour and the Live Tour now.
Yeah, well, that we can look at in future episodes very shortly. Probably in the next few episodes, we'll definitely look into that because that is a giant story that needs to be talked about.
The PGA Tour is losing huge sponsors and names right now, and it's huge to talk about.
Right. Yeah, we'll absolutely cover that in our next episode. It's a pretty big deal for them. They've been proud of their PGA Tour for many, many decades, and
never had a competition close to them.
Not even close. And
all of a sudden, some guys in
Saudi Arabia
decided, I'm going to launch a golf tournament.
It's a Saudi-based tour.
Golf tour.
Yeah.
But they do courses in the States.
But the thing is, these big names like Koepka and all them are moving out. So Mickelson, Koepka, if the other guys are going or not, I know a number of them have already. So again, we'll get into that again. But yeah, I think that's a subject.
Every day there seems to be a name added to that tour.
Right. Yes. And of course,
it's crazy.
Yeah. Oh, it's nuts. It's the news just keeps coming out. And of course, we'll start with and I'll go into my Maple Leaf news next time, and we'll touch on baseball. And obviously, if there's any news on the draft that's changed, of course, we'll go into that. But I really think this is going to be a really nice show. I think we're going to have a lot of fun with this. Again, something we talked about for a long time. And now we're doing it. So that's really good on us. I'm really happy with that. That's it for the show. I mean, do you have anything else you'd like to add? Or
at the moment, I don't think so. I enjoyed it. I hope others enjoy it as well. Just to listen to some sports.
Yeah, exactly. Two sports fans talking it out.
I hope we can bring some insight on certain situations and opinions that people can follow or even debate.
Yes, we'll be posting this so everybody knows. We'll be posting this on YouTube because we have a YouTube channel that we will be launching, or we have launched. We just don't have any content yet. We have a Facebook group that we have. So
Twitter handle.
We have a Twitter handle. So all the relatively main socials are covered. We'll be posting hopefully at least one episode a week. That's our goal. Twice if we can, but that gets a little tight. One will be fine, I think. It'll depend on how long we want to do the show for. We'll also
be trying to tweet information sometimes when we get it.
Oh, absolutely. And if we see something major, we will put that all in the comments below on YouTube. You will have all the links for that down below. And I think with that, feel free to hit the subscribe button and the like button. We will obviously have that available. If for the people that will be seeing it, obviously we'll be sending it to people we know currently, but hopefully as it grows, we'll start to spread the news. Hit the like button, subscribe, and if you want to watch, we're looking forward to your comments. So with that, I think we will wrap this up. We will see you in the next video.
Good night, everyone.
Have a good night. Thanks for watching.